Hello, and welcome to our information for Chat 2. Let me begin by quickly apologizing for not being able to be online last night, but I unfortunately did not have access to my computer during the time that our chat was scheduled, and this was unavoidable. So let me share that information with you and invite you once again to call me, email me, should you have any questions. First of all, let's take a look at our upcoming assignment. Your reflection paper is due the week of June 19th. That means you're going to turn it in by the 15th of June. Your job is to research a current topic in the field of language development and write a summary of the article. Analyze its relationship to the theories presented in this class, and your summary should include a clear connection to one or more of the theories presented, as well as your own reflection and experiences. And many of you have been doing that as you post to the discussion board. It should connect to your studies or plans for you personally. So you can go to the library link in Blackboard. You can use Academic Search Premier or one of the other search engines to find a topic on language that interests you. Be sure to include your in-text citations and a reference list in APA style. Remember that your reflection paper is an opportunity for you to critically engage and connect to your reading. It's your choice to focus on a particular passage or to respond to the main premise of the selection. This reflection reads like a dialogue between you and the text you've read. Now, this is not a formal research paper, but it should be coherent and organized. I should sense that you are being analytical and you have taken your opportunity to agree, disagree, like, dislike, and explain why. So, how can you write this reflection paper? Before you read a selection, make a note of any discussion questions or ideas that occur to you based on the previous knowledge you have of the topic. As you read, keep those questions in mind. You might want to note whether or not the piece you're reading gives the information on these areas. Remember to briefly summarize the main points of the selection. But this is only part of the reflection paper. Your reflection is not merely a summary. So ask yourself these questions. What insights have I gained from the reading? What have I learned? What were the limitations, maybe the not so great moments of the reading, if there were any? And how do these ideas that you've read relate to you? Remember, to reflect means to think back, to step back in time and relive a moment or an event. That's the primary goal of writing a reflective response. The secondary goal is for you to put together in writing what you've learned after your reading. It's easier to focus on one or two elements. This allows for a well-written reflection as opposed to a paper filled with facts that don't make sense. You do not have to discuss everything. Sometimes less is more. Try to remember quality over quantity. Let's review what we know about Brown's stages of development at this point. So we should have a good understanding of stage 1. So stage 1, the child understands about 50 words. The mean language utterance is 1 to 2 at ages 12 to 28 typically. Children can label actions, social words. This is an extensive use of free morphemes, comments, greeting, protests, response to yes and no questions. There are different kinds of morphemes, and we can divide them into two general classes. Free morphemes are those which can stand alone, but bound morphemes must be attached to other morphemes. So, for example, a word like house or dog is called a free morpheme because it can occur in isolation and it's not divided into smaller meaning units. However, the word quickest is composed of two morphemes. One is bound and one is free. The word quick is the free morpheme. It carries the basic meaning of the word. The ending est makes the word a superlative and is a bound meaning morpheme because it cannot stand alone and still be meaningful. Free morphemes can be further divided into content and function words. Content words, as their name suggests, carry most of the content of a sentence. Function words perform some kind of grammatical role and carry little meaning of their own. Stage 2. Here are MLUs between 2 and 2.5, and typically this is seen in a 27 to 30-month-old child. They use two-word phrases. They have intonation in their questions. They understand simple directions. Stage 3 occurs at 31 to 34 months typically. Here the child uses 3 to 4-word phrases, endings like ing and s's. We also begin to see the irregular past tense, but sometimes a verb such as is omitted. More words are used rather than gestures, and there's a large increase in vocalization, and the child begins to understand negation or the word no. Stage 4 occurs at 35 to 40 months typically. Here we see 3 to 5 word sentences, sentences being embedded, and the child can sustain a topic of interest. They also begin to use word pairs and songs. Stage 5, here grammar begins to develop. There are still some errors and irregular forms, but the child knows who can say what to whom and when. Beyond stage 5, usually after 47 months, the child is able to converse about a variety of topics in the here and now and in the there and then. So present and past. Let's look at our rules for counting morphemes. You must transcribe everything. Full starts, revisions, repetitions, incomplete utterances. Then you identify the countable utterances. Look for those that contain a subject and a verb. There are two types of utterances that do not contain a subject and verb, but yet we still count them. Utterances in which the verb is omitted. She nice to me. We're still going to count that even though it's incorrect grammar. And commands in which the you is understood. Sit down and eat dinner. Elliptical utterances, those that omit information that's included in a previous utterance. For example, pancakes and canned toast in response to what did you have for breakfast are usually not counted because they don't contain a subject and verb. If one did include a subject and verb, it would be counted. If an utterance contains more than two clauses connected by a conjunction, and or but, divided into two separate utterances, the rule is that you should not have more than two independent clauses in an utterance. This is done so that the child's MLU won't be inflated by a sentence such as this. My mom fed me breakfast and she washed my hair and she made my bed and she read me a story and she gave me a dog and you can see what will happen. So when you do your sample, 100 countable utterances is what we're aiming for. Your transcription will probably include way more than that. Number each of your utterances, then go back and circle or highlight those that you'll be using as countable. Omit an unintelligible utterance, but count unclear words as one word or morpheme if the rest of the sentence is clear. Exclude an utterance which is an exact repetition of another, and do not count spontaneous imitations of the examiner or the mother or whoever else is in the conversation unless the form has been changed. So how will we tally these morphemes? You're going to tally by including each countable or circled utterances using the following guidelines. Do not count false starts, injections such as or repetitions. Compound words, proper names, count as single words and single morphemes. So moo cow, choo choo, night night count as one morpheme. One morpheme is used for a diminutive such as doggy. All irregular past tense verbs and irregular plurals count as one morpheme. Modals and auxiliaries, example, have to, wanna, gonna, count as one morpheme, whereas inflections, ed, s, en, ing, count as separate morphemes. If the child stutters, count the word once in the most complete form produced. Contractions count as the base and the morpheme, two morphemes. Self-corrections use the final version. Contracted forms count as separate morphemes. Don't, isn't, those all count as two. Then you'll use the formula for counting the morphemes. Sum the totals, divide by the countable utterances, which should be 100, and you will get what you are looking for. So very quickly, here is our list of do's and don'ts, and I won't read these to you, but these you will exclude, these you will count as one. Should you need more practice or you need a child to work with, you can take a look at this playlist on YouTube. If you haven't already done so, I urge you to go to Quizlet and start reviewing some of the things I've placed there and start using it on your own as well, and let me know what you think of it. And finally, I have one more document, which you see on my screen now, but I'll be sharing a copy of this with you. And this is more information on completing your mean length of utterance calculations. There's some explanation. There are examples, so you can see how this has been counted. Here's the text. Here's the example. Here's placing the child where they belong on the chart. Here are some examples of the various features and at what age they are mastered. Again, our do's and don'ts, which you had in the PowerPoint, and I'll be sharing this with you. I hope this has helped, and remember, I am only an email or a phone call away. Good luck with your work this week.